Hi there, welcome to the Win a Pageant podcast. I'm your coach, Alicia Darby, and today I get to introduce you to a very special guest, Dani Walker. Now, Dani has been involved in many different pageant systems throughout the U.S. over her pageant career, but she is most famous for starting the YouTube channel called Pageant Access. Her YouTube videos are incredible. She does vlogs and just direct-to-camera trainings, and they're really all about empowering women, mostly on stage and in the land of pageantry. So in this episode, she's going to share with you 5 very specific tips on how you can actually improve your pageant walk almost immediately. So now, of course, we know that everything does take practice, but her tips are so practical. That is why I love them. And during our conversation, we also talk a lot about what to avoid. So a lot of the funny things that we did when we first started and that we see many other women do. So without further ado, enjoy this episode. Please welcome Dani Walker. Hey, Dani, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm just so excited that you invited me.
Yeah, this is awesome. I know I've been watching your work for a long time now and just admire. You do such great videos. Like, your editing is on point, girl.
Thank you. I learned that all through Google. It's been a very long process. It's constantly Googling and trying to learn new things.
That's great. It's amazing how much we can learn on Google and YouTube.
Oh, yes.
The power of that is just unreal. So anyway, love it. You do really, really great work. And I just love your philosophy around pageantry and the fact that we get to follow your journey and learn as you learn. It's so incredible. So for those who do not yet know you, if you would just share a little bit about your story, your background, and how you came to be doing the work that you're doing today.
Okay. I have been competing in pageants since 2004. So that's quite a bit of time. I started competing in pageants because I didn't really have any other opportunities in life. I come from a low-income household, and my family has struggled financially my entire life. So pageants really taught me how to dream. I was able to surround myself with young women who were accomplishing great things that I never knew were possible for my life. And that's what drew me in. And it pushed me, and I liked the person I was becoming in pageants. So I competed at National American Miss and the Miss America system and other small pageants and in the USA system, which became the one that I loved and that I wanted to keep competing for. And along the way, girls asked me a lot of questions. So that developed and turned into a YouTube channel where I was answering a lot of the common questions that I had. And I realized that there was this audience of young women who needed help, who were like me and didn't have the financial resources, but they had this hunger and this fire in them and this passion to improve themselves. And I admire that. So I wanted to create something. And the idea behind Pageant Access was making pageants accessible to all women, making those skills available to everyone. So I wanted to use what I know and share that with other girls, because I knew that one day I would age out, and then all of that knowledge that I learned, it would go away, it would fall away. And I wanted to be able to share that with others.
That's so cool. And I love that idea of pageant access, because you're right. I was similar. I didn't start competing until probably the same year, but I was several years older than you. So I think I was 20 or so when I won my first pageant, and most of my wardrobe was borrowed. I had and it was the same. I love what you described, it taught you to dream, and how true that is. So the work that you are providing right now is awesome. The way that you do your videos and the way that you are training women, and I see your walking stuff and I see all these videos. But let me ask you this, because I'm curious how you work this out in your mind as you are still a contestant of the Miss USA system, which is a huge pageant. There are women competing all over the US and all over the world that are probably watching your videos and learning all of your secrets and learning all of your tips and seeing all this information. And one day you will likely be on stage competing against those very women. So how do you do this? How do you get over the comparison or the fear of sharing all of these tips and this knowledge and the stuff you're learning with women that could actually help them, and in fact it's intended to? How do you manage that in your mind?
To me, that would be a success either way. If a girl won Miss USA or Miss America and she was a subscriber of Pageant Access, and if she attributed her win to the things that she learned on Pageant Access, that's a win for me. So I don't feel in a way threatened by other women because I'm so different. I'm my own person. And even if I show girls exactly what I'm going to do for interview or for on stage, if they try to emulate that, it might not be the best thing for them because I'm doing things that I do best, things that I feel comfortable doing. And actually, that's something that I really encourage girls to stay away from is trying to copy another girl exactly because she's doing what she does best. And you could be, kind of hurting yourself if you're trying to be just like her because you'll never quite be just like another girl. So I'm never really worried about other girls copying things or learning too much from me because if I can contribute to their success or my own, that's a win either way for me.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, I appreciate that. And I know that you've got a couple tips that you brought with you here today. One of my favorite things that you do so well is walking. Your walk is to die for. And I know that all people are shaped differently, our bodies are designed to move differently. But I think that you've got 5 specific tips that all of us can incorporate to have improve our walk almost immediately. So
Right.
I would love to hear these tips from, and I know you do workshops, right? Am I right that you do workshops all over the
Yes.
world,
Yes.
literally,
Yes, I
to
do
train women?
workshops.
Yeah. So let's talk about your tips.
Okay. So no matter what a girl's age is or age division, I know that a lot of girls they do watch my walk on Instagram and YouTube and they're asking me, "How do I get your walk?" Well, the thing is, everybody's walk is different. It's like your signature, it's like your fingerprint. So I do not encourage you to try to walk exactly like another girl. You're never going to walk exactly like another girl. You're never going to your turns and your poses aren't going to be exactly like her because that's what makes her look good. And you got to go with what works for you. So that's first and foremost what I try to encourage girls to do is just start embracing, first of all, what makes you you. And that's my first point, and it's confidence. And I know that that's a term we hear a lot in pageants, confidence. And girls are wondering, well, what is it? How do I develop it? And I would think for me, what's resonated is a love of myself and being able to embrace who I am, who God made me to be, and saying that that's okay, that I am more than enough. And what really made me realize that was the first time I judged a pageant. And I was watching the girls walk on stage for the gown competition. And all I could think of was how much I admired each girl and her courage for walking on stage and for being able to put herself out there in front of people. And I was looking at all the things that I loved about the girls. And I said, oh my gosh, that must be what a lot of judges are thinking. They're looking at all the good things versus me as a contestant for years I was focused on, oh my gosh, like I don't want them to look at my smile too much because my teeth aren't as straight as I want them to be, or I don't want them to look at my gown because I borrowed it and it's ripped in the back. And I was focused on all those things and it was affecting my performance on stage and it was affecting my confidence. And judges can see that. So I encourage all girls that when you walk on stage, something that everybody can do well is learn how to love themselves. And I always, this is silly, whenever I walk on stage, I think of Beyonce's song Diva, and I play it in my head over and over to pump up my confidence. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's evening gown or swimsuit, I'm just out there and I'm just thinking, yeah, I'm a diva on stage and I love me, and the judges are going to love me. So
I love
I,
that.
I think that it's really silly, but that visualization is so important. You have to visualize how you're going to look on stage. Never worry about another girl, but how you're going to look. And you should just be thinking about all the things that you love about yourself. Because I'm telling you, as a judge, I don't know what your insecurities are. If I look at a girl, I can't say, oh, she thinks she's fat or she thinks that she's not pretty enough. I would never think of those things. I have no idea. So as a contestant, love yourself and focus on that and let that show in your face. I always tell girls, it's like face all day. Face all day is just like letting your confidence shine through your face. And like, because you can tell when a girl is just thinking about things that make her uncomfortable, it comes through in that way. So just love yourself on stage.
That's really a beautiful way of describing it. And I like how you tie the specific mantra, the diva mantra, like that song in your mind. I have my girls actually go through a mantra exercise where they actually say, what are the words I want to be speaking to myself in my own head? Mine was all like, for swimsuit, every time I came out, I said, I'm having a pool party. You're totally invited. And like literally the whole time on
Yeah,
stage, that's going, I'm having a pool party. You're totally
I
invited.
do that.
Yeah, and it helps so much with that confidence, as you're saying, because your brain isn't thinking about, I might be falling out of this, or, oh, I hope they don't realize this isn't my real cup size, or,
Right,
oh, my
right.
swimsuit's scooching up a little bit in the back, or, all these other things that could be filling that space, but instead we're sticking with that confident thought. I love that.
Yeah, I have another rule is just no negativity. I mean, really no negativity at all during pageant preparation, but I never say negative things about myself to myself, and I never focus on any of that at a pageant. So that's one of my rules is all positivity throughout the whole preparation and competition. Don't put yourself down. There's enough people trying to do that to others. You don't need to do it to yourself.
Oh, so good. Yeah. Wow, that is excellent. So tip number 1 is confidence. So what
Mhm.
is tip number 2 to improve our walk immediately?
Posture.
Oh,
Oh boy.
amen,
I
sister.
know, it's such an obvious thing, but what I see a lot of the times is that girls they don't prepare right before they walk on stage, so they're just so focused in that moment and being nervous that they just run out on stage. And I encourage everybody that before you walk on, give yourself a checklist. Make sure that you're where you should be mentally, but that your posture is there as well. So you want to make sure that you're standing up straight and tall. And here's one thing that drives me nuts on stage. I call it the turtle, and I'll show you from the side. So it's when girls have a lot of tension in their shoulders, they're really squeezing them back. It causes your head to protrude forward, and you look like a little turtle on stage, and it looks kind of funny and it looks silly. But I personally, as a judge, it drives me nuts, and I see a lot of judges talking about that. So, don't let your head protrude forward. You want to make sure that your body is fully aligned when you're standing. And in addition to that, tension is really big. I can tell if a girl's really nervous when her shoulders start to squeeze in a lot towards her body or pull back too far. So yes, place your shoulders in a place that's going to be comfortable for you, but always be aware when you're on stage and going like, okay, wait, are they tense? Because I don't know if you've ever experienced that in a moment when your body tenses up and you're like, wait, what am I doing? And then you can feel that relaxation. So relaxation is very important for your posture before you walk on stage. And I always actively check my posture on stage whenever I'm competing. If I'm standing still in a lineup for a long time, I ask myself, wait a second, are we tense? And then I take a second to breathe and loosen up. And I think that is a huge factor in letting the judges know if you feel confident, if you feel good about yourself on stage, or if you're really nervous and you need a little bit more practice.
Yeah, yeah. That's, you bring up a good point, and I love the idea of just checking even when you're on stage to just
Yes.
because you do, as backstage you might feel like, oh, this is going to be good. And then as soon as you walk out, it's like, and then all of a sudden you have a shortness of breath, and then your arms are really tight, and then you're like, ah. And if you just say, wait a minute, what's happening? All of that you can just release. So I love that on stage, actually thinking that.
The place that I noticed that a lot of girls either lose their posture or tense up, and this is any pageant system, is right after they do their circle turn, as soon as they lose eye contact with the judges, there's something about that second, that moment, that either causes them to slump forward and lose the posture or to tighten up some more. So I always remind girls that right after you lose that eye contact, mentally check yourself and ask, oh, am I tense or did I lose posture in that moment? Because I see it time and time again with girls. That's something that is across the board a major, little issue for everyone.
That's good. I love that you're bringing up these blind spots, like the places that we don't see. Because you're right, yep. That little turtleneck and, the tension when we lose eye contact, all those things are things that you really have to be competing often and working. In your case, you've worked with so many women that you see these things happen over and over
every
and over.
day.
So, so it's not just like one woman in the mirror with herself, but now we have these things. Yeah, but if we are, so you mentioned a checklist. Can you run through some of the elements that you would have on a checklist, like backstage?
Sure. So I think just head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And I've always developed, ever since I was a junior teen, I was like, do. I always anticipate my eye contact before I walk on stage. I'm visualizing where that first judge is going to be, that I'm going to look. So that prevents me from ever looking down on the floor or looking in a way that I'm missing that important opening moment when I get out there and I'm like, hey, look at me. I always anticipate eye contact. I make sure that depending on the age division, the pageant system, I check my facial. So sometimes in pageants, you want to come on a little bit serious or smiley or whatever that is going to be for you. So I make sure that, my face is ready to go, whatever that is for that competition. Like I said, posture next. Arms, which will be actually my next point, but I make sure that there's no tension in the arms. And then I make sure that I give myself a really good starting pose. What I usually do before I enter on stage for a pageant is I don't just like run on stage. I actually back up a little bit to give myself, so to speak, a running start, so that the judges are going to see a continual nice motion from me as soon as I enter, not just like this starting thing. So I like to let myself get into the walk a little bit before they actually see me. So like I said, just like head, shoulders, knees, and toes, making sure that everything is how I want it to look like. And I visualize that. I visualize like, okay, like this is how I imagine it's going to look when I step on stage. And then it does. Visualization is powerful.
So true. I agree. Yeah. So cool. So you mentioned arms. That's tip number 3. So what do we need to know about our arms?
Yes, arms, they drive me crazy, girls. All right, so there's a couple things I talk to girls a lot about with arms, and it's just this. Like, your arms know what they want to do. They already know how to move. It's instinct. So it's like when we run, and our arms are up. Whenever we're, like pacing and walking really fast, our arms are a little bit lower, but they're swinging more. So your arms should move in reaction to your body. So in formal wearing and gown, your arms aren't going to move quite as much as they would in a swimsuit competition or casual wear, whatever it is. It's something that's going to be more upbeat. So let your arms do what they naturally do. What I've noticed is a lot of girls start to, and I don't know where they get it from, pick up things that are unnatural for arms to do. Sometimes girls will walk with like the same arm and the same leg,
Yeah.
it always
so
amazes,
weird, right?
it amazes me, and I'm like, how did that happen? Or I see girls do this weird like glitzy arm thing where they move their arms around, or they're very purposefully, they're like a robot, they're very like slowly and deliberately moving. That's weird for judges. I personally see it as a girl who's like not quite comfortable on stage. I want the girl that's the most relaxed. So my biggest really piece of advice in terms of arms and hands, watch the hands, because I see a lot of girls like grabbing their dresses, making fists. Their hands are like this on stage, or like weird claw hands. Couple of things for arms would just be, make sure your fingertips are always brushing the side of your gown or your body. If you have a ball gown on, your arms are going to be out a little bit more. They can't be touching your sides. But make sure fingertips are always brushing. Make sure hands are relaxed. I like to think of it actually as dead arms. And it sounds kind of funny, and girls ask me a lot about how I get my arms to look a certain way. And it's about me thinking about relieving all tension from them and worrying about moving them less, not more. I know everybody wants to know what they can add to, improve their performance, but the basis of my walk and how I teach girls is actually about taking most of those things away. And I take away things so then judges can focus on your face, because that's what they should be looking at. You want to get that eye contact, and that's my next point.
Oh, good. Well, perfect transition. Tell us about eye contact.
Eye contact is so important. It couldn't be more important. I know a lot of people are afraid at looking at judges in the eyes, but I took this tip from Nia Sanchez that I heard from her, and I really liked it. Obviously, she won Miss USA. That's somebody that, I could take her advice. She talked about meaningful eye contact, where she actually didn't focus, between the judges' eyes, which a lot of people say, or over the judges' heads. She focused on remembering the color of every judge's eyes. And I said, that's so different, so neat. And that's true, because when you have this in-depth conversation with somebody, you're giving them your full attention. You're giving them that really great eye contact. I always plan out my eye contact before I compete. So I don't like to leave things up to chance. And when I'm practicing, I emphasize, who am I going to be looking at when I'm posing here? Who am I going to be looking at when I am walking forward? You don't have to stare at the judges the entire time. In fact, it's usually kind of scary. So I like to think of the audience, and if there's a camera at your pageant, the camera as your other judges. So if you're going to be looking at all the judges on stage, also give a quick look to the camera, give a look to the audience. I do see a lot of girls trying to incorporate an audience look, and it's kind of funny when they do it, because they look up out into the rafters, and I appreciate what you're trying to do. I do. But be aware of your venue. The judges aren't dumb. They know if you're in a venue where there's a balcony or if it's a single level theater. So I think it's always cute if a girl's like up there looking at nothing. You're not quite at Miss USA yet or Miss Universe, so you don't have to be looking up into the back row of your audience. You can still look down. Just be aware of your venue because they're aware of that as well. The judges are in the same room that you are.
Yeah, that's good. And I think that basically what you're describing there with the eye contact comes back to the point about the arms is it's just got to be natural.
Yes.
Like these things don't be trying to do some wacko thing or make it like super weird. Same thing with eye contact. If you're talking with someone you know and love or you want to get to know, you're looking at them in the eyes. You're not trying to like do this weird thing or whatever. Yeah, so it's about just be normal, right?
And I know that it's scary. It can be intimidating, especially if you've never done pageants or if you're not used to making eye contact with people in person. That's just a social skill that's difficult to acquire. But the way that I think of it is this: I weigh, the pros and cons and the balances, and I think, okay, is 30 seconds of awkward, of me being uncomfortable looking at somebody in the eye, is that worth the title to me? Or am I willing to give up that crown just because I wanted to avoid 30 seconds of me feeling a little bit uncomfortable? And that's what it comes down to. Are you willing to sacrifice 30 seconds of awkward to get that crown?
Oh, that's good. That's a perfect distinction. And the more that you overcome that awkwardness, the quicker you'll be able to say, well, that's not awkward anymore.
Right.
And it's just a part of who you are.
It's easier. Exactly.
Yeah.
It gets easier.
Definitely. Yeah. So I love your point number 5. So tell us this one. This one's a little bit, probably not what people are expecting.
Okay, so shoes. I know that it sounds crazy. Like I mentioned in the beginning, everybody's walk is going to be different. When I work with girls, I don't try to make everybody into a pageant patty robot or my army of pageant dolls, because everybody's a little bit different.
That's a good one, the army of pageant dolls. I've never heard that one before. I
Oh,
like that.
yes, the pageant patties. Yeah,
Yes.
I see them. I see them. But so when I talk about shoes with girls, I know everybody wants to wear the tippy top heels, or everybody wants to wear these platform heels. Unfortunately, not all of us have the arch in our foot that's ready to wear those. And if you want to wear those and walk well in them, then you have to work on stretching out the arch of your foot so then you're comfortable enough to walk in them. And something that Lou Sierra said really struck me. She's the Miss Universe and Miss USA walking coach. And she's like, I have never met a judge who looked at a girl on stage and said, oh, she's wearing the tippy tops, I'm going to pick her. And it's so true. And you've never also had a judge who's like, oh no, she's only wearing a 3-inch heel, not going to pick her. That never happens. It's not something that I consider. You're not going to win or lose a pageant really based off of your shoe. It's just not going to happen. There's a whole lot more going on that goes into that decision-making process than the shoe. So a really good rule of thumb is this: to decide if a shoe is appropriate for you and for your foot at the moment, and which is important for younger to older contestants, is when you put the shoe on, you should be able to stand in your tippy toes on the shoe, okay? And look in the mirror when you do this, or when you're at the shoe store. If there is an inch or more of space between the bottom of that high heel and the ground, then your arch is ready to walk in those shoes. Your arch is high enough. Now, if there's less than an inch of space and you can't get off the ball of your foot, then that heel is too high for you at the moment, and it will really affect the way that you walk in that shoe. So finding a shoe that's right for you, obviously that fits your gown length as well, or your wardrobe length, is very, very important, and it's going to affect how you walk. And I urge a lot of girls who meet with me wearing their tippy top heels to actually lower the heel, because it's going to greatly improve their walk on stage. Other than that, there are basics for walking, like, kind of walking in a straight line. But like I said, I've worked with so many different girls, and everybody has their different things. Like, some of them, they need more hip movement. Some need less. Some girls, I've noticed, when they walk in a straight line, they actually, when they step down, they roll their heels out on the side. So it makes their walk look really wobbly on stage. So everybody's very different, and you just have to go with what works for you. But those shoes, they're everything.
Yeah.
They're everything.
You're right. That's like building a house. The foundation is the most important piece, because everything stacks up on top of that. And so the shoe is the very base of everything. It's got to be, and of course, we're not wearing shoes that are like flip-flops or sneakers. They're never going to be that
No.
comfortable. Like,
No.
it's never going to feel quite like that. But I love that very specific identifier that you gave. So we're going to try the shoe on and then go up on our tippy toes, like up onto the ball of the foot, and look to see how much space is there. It needs to be at least an inch, you said.
Yes, if it's an inch, then yeah, your arches are really high. And what that means in terms of your walk is what I've noticed a lot of girls, they have an issue with the big shoes because they're not able to straighten their knee, step with their heel, and then their toe. They're actually just stepping flat-footed with each step. There's no heel toe as you normally have with how we all walk. We all walk with heel toe, but if the heels are too high for you, you're just like stepping like this. And it doesn't look very nice on stage. So if your heel and your arch is ready for that, checking that distance will make sure that you have the room to step from heel toe, and then we avoid stepping flat onto that shoe.
Right, that's good. Or with a bent knee, which is never cute.
Right, with the bent knee, yes. It drives me nuts. It looks like little dinosaurs or something. That's what it reminds me. Dinosaurs are, they're cute, but not a pageant.
And we tease about all these things, but like if I look at when I first started, like I had the weird arm. My arms were swinging like an orangutan. Like my first pageant, they were swinging all around. I was like a windmill. My bent knees. I remember the first pageant I had filmed. When I watched it back, I was horrified at how I took these giant steps. My knees are all crazy.
The big steps?
Yeah, I was like,
you just step like under yourself. Yeah. I'm like, why? I'm like, where are you going? Where are you going with those big steps all the time with these girls? I feel so bad. I'm like, you can take smaller steps, right? It doesn't make you any taller if we take big steps on stage.
But you know what? This is the value. I think we're demonstrating the value of getting feedback. Because when we're learning by ourselves, these are mistakes. We're giggling because we've all made them and we see them everywhere.
Yes.
And, so it is when you're first starting and you aren't getting someone to analyze your walk, we don't really know how we walk. And if it's functional, then we think it's just fine. But you're right. For a pageant, there is definitely the littlest things that can be improved very easily if we just are open to feedback.
I agree. Oh, yes. And I'll tell you, pageants are one of the most humbling experiences when you go from competing in one system, which maybe you've been successful in, and then you go to another and you just can't win a title. I've experienced that. And you're starting from scratch again, and you have to be open to constructive criticism and be really humble. And I think that's something that's just like a life lesson and a good lesson for all girls in pageants. Be willing to take criticism. Sometimes you win a pageant and you have a director that's preparing you for another level, and your opinions are going to vary from them and the team that prepares you. But sometimes you just really have to be open and say, okay, maybe I don't know everything. And I still have to do that too. I still get comments from people about how I've performed, and even my mom. I think my mom's the toughest one. She's the one.
Yeah.
She's like, that I didn't like that very much. That was we could do better.
Oh, that's cute. So. But you're right, that feedback, and my philosophy is if the feedback applies, then you need to modify. And if not, let it fly.
I do that too. Where you go like, oh, okay, like I tried it. I gave it a shot and it didn't work for me. So I'm just going to move on and try something else.
Exactly. Yeah.
But at least try it. Cause I think that's how a lot of girls get stuck. And they're like, why am I not winning a pageant? And I'm looking at them and I'm going, well, I know exactly why you're not winning the pageant.
Right.
Because you're not taking anybody's advice. And I've come across that before where moms have come up to me and asked me like, what can my daughter do to improve? And I told them, and they're just set on, nope, this is how we're doing it. And I was like, well, she's going to continue to, not win that pageant, unfortunately. And if that's your goal, then you need to modify.
Yeah. And that's a good distinction too, is that it might not be your goal. Like some people are just like, I'm competing. It's fun. I don't care. I don't need the feedback. It doesn't matter. I just do it for fun. And then that's fine. But it is definitely a different goal. And if you want to be awesome at anything in life, you have to be willing to get the resources, get the coaching, get the feedback that we need.
Right.
I just listened to, what book am I listening to right now? I forget. I can't. Oh, maybe it was. I can't remember if it was Thrive. Right now I'm listening to an audiobook and I'm reading 2 books, so I'm getting them all dizzied in my head.
I do that too.
But someone recently, I read that Michael Jordan was among the best, of course, like the best shooter in the NBA. And he had a shooting coach where this guy's job was to give him feedback on his shot, on his basketball shot. And he would willingly accept feedback all through his entire career. And even though he was playing at the top of his game, he knew there was always that level of room for improvement. And I think
I believe that too.
The best of the best are constantly seeking improvement in whatever we want to be amazing at. You've got to get that feedback to kind of keep it going.
That's a common denominator between so many great people in their industry. One of them is Michelangelo, and when he was dying, one of his last words was, "I'm still learning." And I was like, whoa. And then another one that I was inspired by growing up was Baryshnikov, famous male ballet dancer. And he took a basic ballet 1 class every single day, not advanced, for beginners. He took a class every single day. And because he was so dedicated to perfecting his craft and saying, we're not perfect. And he was always reminding himself of the fundamentals and going back to that. So people like that inspire me, and I like to take that approach with everything in my life, not just pageants, but looking at myself and saying, I can improve, I can do a little bit better, and being open to constructive criticism.
Great, I love that. Well, you've shared a lot of information today, so
yes,
I love it. So let me ask you this, because I know that you have so much happening with Pageant Access. It's growing so quickly. Your subscribers, in fact, people who are watching right now, head over to Pageant Access. We're going to give you all the links to do that. Follow this woman's channel. You're going to absolutely fall in love with her and everything she teaches. So do take hold of that. But I know Pageant Access has been growing over the last many years. But also the Dani Walker brand has been growing as well, as you have continued to expand your skill set and the offerings that you're able to bring to people. So I'm curious if you could share a little bit about what the future holds for you. Like, what's the vision that you have for the future of your brand?
Well, I never expected that pageants would lead me into this YouTube channel and take me where they've taken me. I actually grew up wanting to be a singer, which I still love doing, which I think that there's always still time for to sing. But pageants, like I said, just took me down this path, and I've just embraced it. But I realized that I'm so much more than pageantry, and I have other talents and skills. And through my journey with Pageant Access in this channel, I found other things that I'm passionate about that interest me, as not only the things that I would advocate if I were chosen as Miss USA one day, but the things that I want to continue for the rest of my life. One of that is just public speaking and mentoring young women. I've done that. I've been able to travel the country and share with girls about interview skills and walking skills, as well as how to shape their brand image on social media. So I want to continue to do that in a much larger scale. I'm always looking for opportunities to speak to young women, because young women there's so much potential in them, and I see girls everywhere I go, even at a coffee shop, and I see a girl and I wonder to myself, has somebody told her that she's beautiful? Have they told her that she's capable? Have they told her that she, is capable of achieving anything in her life that she wants? Because I know that I didn't have pageants gave to me, which is why I advocate them for young women, at least trying them to gain these skills. But I want to continue beyond pageantry to mentor young women and to essentially be a social influencer. My life now, it's on camera all the time. I can't go back. I have vlogging episodes now that are reaching beyond pageants. I'm able to share about nonprofits that are important to me, like Donate Life. I lost my cousin Andrew last year, unfortunately, to a drunk driving accident. So it's something that I've become passionate about sharing to other people about the dangers of that and organ donation. So I want to be more involved in that community, as well as, like I said, mentor more young women. And I'm just looking for travel opportunities at the moment, because I want to, touch as many lives as I possibly can, whether I have a title or not.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, the work that you are doing is perfectly setting you up for this. I just want to take a moment to honor you for that, because what you're describing about how women, we do need support from the people around us. And when you were describing, like, I walk into a coffee shop and see a woman, does she know she's capable? Has anyone told her she's beautiful? Like, that is going to be the wave of our future. And the way that you have aligned yourself, the way that you're creating your social brand and becoming an influencer for positivity is just wonderful. And we need more of you out there. So I'm so grateful that you are leading this charge and doing this for women everywhere. This is such an important movement. So thank you for your work in that.
Yes, it means so much to me, because, like I said, when I was little, I didn't have it. And now I realized, oh my gosh, I've gotten to do so many great things with my life because of a couple people along the way that influenced me. And I said, what if I did that for other young women? Imagine the potential and imagine the growth they would have. And I'm telling you, a lot of women just don't know these things about themselves because nobody encourages them. So I'm really big on encouraging other women, supporting them, teaching them how to network. I read a really great book, and it was about six-figure earning women. And a lot of them talked about women, we act out of scarcity. So we think that if I become the CEO of this huge Fortune 500 company, that every other woman is a threat to me and that she will get me out of this, she can cause me to lose my job. Men actually think the other way. Men emphasize the boys club, and they're always trying to help each other out, and women aren't for some reason. We aren't because we're often a minority in different situations in life. So I'm trying to help young women see that we succeed when we help each other. We succeed together. So I am all about working with other women in pageants and business and whatever industries that they're passionate about to share about them. I want them to be successful because I think that's great for all women. And it's just, girls need that encouragement. I've come across so many girls, most recently, one that all I said to her, I was giving her some critiques on her walk for a pageant. And I could tell it, it was hard for her to hear any type of critique. And then I said, no, you're doing a great job there. Just a couple of things we're going to improve. You're so beautiful. And she broke down in tears as if nobody had ever told her something wonderful about herself. And that hurt my heart. It hurt my heart and it touched my heart. And it just empowers me to continue to do what I'm doing for women and to encourage them and tell them all the great things about them. And that's why I don't worry so much about sharing my secrets and competing against other girls, because what I'm doing is it transcends pageantry. It goes beyond that. It's all about helping other women.
Yeah, it's the greater good.
Yes.
Oh, it's so cool. So share with us, where can people because I know you really are looking to attract two types of people. First is those of us who just want to follow you, or just fans. So I know there's a place for that, but also for the people that are like, yes, I want her to speak at my next event. So where can we find you and follow you?
I am everywhere. So if you look up Pageant Access on YouTube, that'll come right up. Honestly, if you look up, pageant walking or tips or things like that, Pageant Access will probably come up anyways. So you can find me on YouTube. You can also find me on Instagram. I have two Instagram accounts. One is geared towards pageants for all of the pageant fans out there. So I get to cover about designers and dresses and contestants and pageants. So that is just at Pageant Access, one word. And then my personal Instagram, so if you're more interested about my road to Miss Montana USA or the things that I'm doing outside of pageants, then that's at Dani Walker, and that's just Dani Walker, one word. You guys can find me on Facebook at Pageant Access and Dani Walker as well, or you can tweet me at Dani Walker Music. I do have a website, and that's linked on all of those different accounts, as well as my email address if you want to get in touch with me. And I would love to hear from any of you guys that are watching this. So if you have any other questions or comments or wanted to know something, please don't be afraid to reach out and contact me. Girls message me every single day, and I try my best to reach out and contact everybody who messages me and reply to them.
You do a really excellent job of that. I know when you and I first met, it was had an exchange, I guess, was because you posted something and I was like, this has to be Meghan. Is it Meghan Markle? Is that her name?
Yes.
Is that your doppelganger?
Yes.
And I'm like, this girl.
Oh my gosh.
Like, Meghan Markle looks so much like Dani Walker. I'm like, huh? And I watch her, so famous actress who's dating Prince. One of the princes, I forget.
Yeah,
which
I
prince
wish I
know, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And she's also a massive social activist and just a female girl power all the way. She's an awesome woman. And so anyway, I have been following your channel, and I'm also watching her show Suits at the same time. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just love this. It feels like the same woman. You're blending together in my brain.
So fun.
Yeah, it's fun. So anyway, I say that to say, you do a great job of responding to your fans, and I always see when people comment on your YouTube channel, you're on it right away. So that's awesome. We appreciate it. Yeah, you do a good job with that. Cool. So I love that.
I try.
I want to ask you one more question. This is kind of a fun one. If you were on an elevator with a pageant contestant and you had just about 30 seconds, and she turned to you and said, "How can I win my pageant?" What would you say to her?
That is so funny because that's actually happened to me before.
Wow.
That's
What'd you tell her?
weird. I was actually competing against a girl that I met it's so weird. Now I'm actually coaching her, but I met her in 2009 in an elevator, and I told her to have the best time of her life at the pageant, to embrace who she is, to obviously focus on things like eye contact and walking, but really to live in that moment that she has with those judges. I think that that's one of the most attractive things that a girl can be, is herself. And I've seen that judging now, that it is just embracing who you are, because I'm telling you, judges, we overlook the little things. We overlook the hair that's out of place or the weird color shoes. We overlook that, so then we can get a title holder that is the whole package. And that's a woman who is embracing herself and sharing about what she stands for. So that's so funny, because I had a girl reach out to me almost 10 years later that I met in an elevator in that situation, and said that because of that experience that she wants to start competing in pageants again. So that's so cool. That's a real story.
Oh, wow, I love that. Well, I wasn't expecting that to be like a real story, but
Yeah, when you said that, I was like, you're describing this since
you're like, wait a minute, I've been here before. I recognize this.
Yeah, and it's so funny because she remembered it, because it was me and my mom, and we were encouraging her, and she was like, why is she giving me all this advice? We're competing against each other. And it's just, my mom's always taught me to encourage other women and to be like that. She's always, I mean, you would not even know. I would end up giving girls my gowns at pageants, or my shoes. We would be sharing shoes. Like, I would get off stage for a competition. I remember like throwing shoes to girls and be like, put them on, get on stage, and doing stuff like that. But that's because my mom always instilled in me the importance of, being a good sport and being helpful to other people. So I've really carried that on throughout my experience.
And it leads to such a happy life. When
Yes.
we are givers like that, when we show up with a place of generosity and of abundance instead of scarcity, then it comes back. What you give will be given unto you.
Oh,
Pressed down, shaken together, and running over.
One of my favorite things that I heard a pastor say was, and this is what I live by, is you can't outgive God. Try it.
Yes.
So when I heard that, I was like, you know what? I am going to try it. So I started asking myself, what do I have to give to others that is going to benefit other people? What are my gifts that I have to share? Instead of, what do I want from people? And the second that I started doing that, Pageant Access started to grow. And I started getting all of these wonderful opportunities in life. And the doors just started to open, and I found success. And I still see that growing. And it's all because everything in my brand is based around that idea of, like, you can't outgive God. And give it a shot. If you want to test him, try it, and he'll always bring back something better for you and for your life. And that's how I live, and that's really the driving force behind everything that I do with Pageant Access or with my own personal brand, Dani Walker, anything that I do.
Wow, what a powerful note to end on. That was awesome. Cool. Wow. Well, Dani, thank you so much for sharing all of your insights, for sharing those top 5 tips to improve our pageant walk. That is so beautiful. It's such an honor to have this opportunity to chat with you today. I wish you so well. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
Absolutely. Hey, I hope you loved this episode as much as I did. And if you did, would you please give it a big thumbs up? I know that Dani would really, really appreciate that, as would I. And if you have any specific questions that you would like her or myself to reflect on, please go ahead and leave them in the comments below. She's excellent about getting back to people, so I know she'll have her eye on them as well. So thank you again for being a part of the Win a Pageant podcast, and I'll see you next Win a Pageant Wednesday.